Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well because today we have a new kind of video. Now this is not a tutorial, I'm not showing you a feature. Today we're going to actually be working on a project. Here I have a house, as you can see, and we're going to be making 4 different projects for that house. So we'll be using 3D models, we'll be using point clouds, measures, a lot of things to actually prepare projects that will be made on this house. So today we'll be going over installing solar panels, so here on this roof and on that one. And then we'll also be making an underground garage right here. We'll also create a hot tub right here with the terrace and everything that goes with it. And finally, we'll also be implementing a pillar right here with an awning that's going to be all over this part of the terrace with the table and chairs right beneath it. And so these are going to be our 4 projects that we're actually going to make in that video. Make sure to use the timeline down below if you only want to see one part of it maybe, or watch the whole video to see how we can use different tools to actually prepare and create projects. Let's start with the easiest one, and that is the awning that is going to be right here. So the very first thing I will do is import the new point cloud that I have, which actually represents where the pillar is actually going to be anchored in the ground, because I've started doing this, and so I scanned it, and I can now import it so I can actually see exactly where it is, and I don't have to take measurements and all of that. I'll just go into Project Plus and import that little patch of point cloud, which is right here. That's the one. I'll just click add to app. Everything has the same origin point, so I literally have to do nothing to place it correctly. It will directly be in the correct position. What I can do is maybe give it an English name, so pillar emplacement, for example. And I'll just click on import object, and now I can see here it has been imported. If I click on it, that's the whole thing. But I don't want to see all of that. The only thing I want to see is actually right here, this part. But right now I have the original point cloud and my new one. They're kind of one on top of each other. So what I will do is use a clipping box to clip out the old point cloud and only have the new one in this spot. So I'll just go right here, say clip out, select the zone that I want to work with, so something like that. Then I'll change the size a bit. There we go. And make sure that it only applies on the original point cloud and not on the pillar emplacement. So I'll just unselect this, I'll move it around so it's actually well placed. Alright, that looks about right. So now I have both my point clouds intricate into one another, and so I have my pillar emplacement right here with the old point cloud around. What I'll just do is hide the clipping box so that it feels more natural. And from now, I'll have 2 things to do. The first thing is actually making the pillar. Do so, I'll hide this and go into add an object. I'll add a primary model, a box to be more specific. And what we'll do here is instead of having a 0.5 height, I might have, I don't know, about a 2 meter height or so. And then it's going to be way less thick. So I'll make it 0.10. I'll place it pretty much in the center of its emplacement, just like that. And then I'll change its color, because that orange seems just too weird. So what I will do to have a good color is pick a color randomly, like on the web. You just look for example, hexadecimal wood. Okay, and it will give me a color palette. For example, if I use this, it will give me a color palette that can look like wood. For example, the first one looks about right. So I'll just select this, go back here, enter it here, pass it, press escape, and now I have my pillar with actually wooden color rather than that weird orange color. Okay, so now I have my pillar, which I'll actually rename to pillar so we can identify it. I'll actually create a folder that's going to be called Awning, so I can put everything that is related to that project into this folder. This way, when we actually go ahead and create the other projects, we can have one folder per project, and then it's going to be way easier for us to manage the different projects, hide the one that we don't want to see, and show the ones that we actually want to display. So we'll just use that for now. I'll move the point cloud, the pillar, and the clipping box into that folder, and so now everything is in there. And so if I want to go back to the original project, I just have to hide the folder, and I'm back to the regular house point cloud. And if I display it again, I'm going to have the whole thing again. So it's really nice to be able to do that. I have this, but now I'm actually missing one thing, which is the actual cloth. So what we'll do is create another primary model. So I'll just go back here, create a new box, and this time it's going to be really thin. So instead of 0.5, it's going to be 0.01, for instance. And that is really thin, just like a cloth, okay? It is really, really thin. And now what I'll do is align that not with the pillar, but with the house. So I'll make sure that it aligns perfectly with this right here, even in height, that it's actually on there, and feel free to rotate it if needed, which in my case I do need to do. After a few tweakings, I now have the cloth, which is still in orange, but to make it the right size and the right position, it's better to have a bright color, and then once it's placed, change the color to the actual color that you want to see at the end. So right here, I have the good placement, but it's still a bit too big, so I'll select it back, and then I'll use the scale right here to change the size to have it actually matching the width and length of this. It's not quite long enough, so I'll go back to like 4.2 maybe or so. Now I can see that the pillar is definitely not high enough. So what I'll do is select the pillar back and change the height of this, because 2 meters definitely isn't good enough. 3 meters, it's probably down under there, and then I'll try to place it correctly, get it back up, and I can see that the cloth actually doesn't go far enough. So what I'll do is change its width, and you will see why in just a moment. So I'll say back to 5. Okay, it's way too long, but it doesn't matter, and you will understand in a few moments why. What matters to me is that it fits here on the right and there. This part doesn't matter. I'll use a clipping box just after to hide just what I don't want to see. Okay, that's fine. Now back to the pillar. We'll actually make it so that it arrives perfectly on here. There we go. We have our pillar. Now, it is too long. Doesn't matter. What we want is for it to be the right size above the ground. Below the ground, even if it's too long, we don't really care about it, because if we have to measure it, we'll actually use a measurement tool and not just look at it. All right, so now it's almost perfect, but I will do one last thing, which is what I just told you before, and that is using a clipping box, clipping out onto the cloth to hide just the part that I don't want to see. So I'll make it long enough so that I can hide everything. I'll make it a little bit wider, and now I'll make sure that it only applies on the cloth. So right now it's called shape 17, but I'll actually rename it to cloth and put it into the awning right here. There we go. Now I'll select my clipping 57 right here and rotate it so that it's going to fit perfectly the end of here and the end of there. Let's hide the frame to see what it looks like. Here, it's perfectly on the end of the roof, and out there, it's perfectly on the pillar. Now the last thing I have to do is select my cloth, and instead of that orange color, I'll go F. So it's a white cloth, and there we go. We now have our awning totally made, basically. We have our pillar, we have the structure down there, like the emplacement where it's going to be, we have our cloth, and if we want to go back to our original point cloud, we can just use the overall folder, hide it. We have our current state, and then click back again, and we have what we basically want. It's as easy as this. And we'll use the same technique for all of the other projects that we're going to make on the house, making a folder and then working everything in that folder, and working a lot with primary elements like these and clipping boxes so that we can create simple shapes and modify them just a bit with the clipping boxes so that they can look exactly what we want them to look like. Right, let's head over to the second project that we're actually going to work, and that's going to be installing solar panels. So there are a few things that we have to go through before we actually go ahead and install those. The first thing being the orientation of the sun, which is really important when you use solar panels. And so you want to have a south and or west orientations. What I did is I added a compass so I can show you physically where the north is. So I have the north that is up there in my project, and then I have the south down there, west and east here. So basically I'll have to have panels that face south, so downwards compared to where I am right now, and west, so on the left. So if we look at the house, okay, this part of the roof is looking east, so that's not right. All of this is actually looking west, so we could use this. And then right here we have a part looking north with this, and this part is looking south. So we'll be able to use this part of the roof, and then this part and this part as well. We might not use all of it, so we might only use this section and then this section. That should be enough. We'll see. We'll make our calculations and see we have to use this part as well. Now that we know the orientation and where we're actually going to use the solar panels, let's take a look at two things. One, what sizes are solar panels, so that we can determine like how many we're going to be able to place. And then we'll have a look at all of the electrics that we have to put in place. So we'll put that in the garage. Okay, so if we took a look at this, we can see that solar panels can come in very different sizes. So I have like a 1 meter per 1.7, or 1 meter per 2.1, 1.1 per 2.3, or 1.3 per 2.4. I believe I'm going to use this one, the 1 meter like width, so it's easier for me to make the calculations, because I know that each panel is like 1 meter of width, and also I have a 1.5 centimeter difference between each panel, and then it's approximately 2 meters high, so same thing is going to be pretty easy to make the calculations. So I'll use this one, okay? So now that I know the size that I have, what I can do is I have two options when it comes to the project. First, I can create primary models as we did with this and place models where the panels would be, or I can actually go ahead into Sketchfab and add an actual model. So if I just go into Sketchfab right here and search for solar panel, I'll have a few, and for example here that's 72, that looks pretty similar to what I have here. I'm actually going to take that one, and then I just click add to app, and it will load it into my project, and I'll be able to place it. I'll just check the size before I import it, and then I'll be able to place it, and I'll just duplicate it as many times as I need to have my whole roof made. Now that my model has been imported, the first thing I will do is actually go ahead and take a measurement to have the width and the length to make sure that it's actually corresponding to what I needed right here, which is about 1 meter to about 2 meters right here. So I'll just go into measures, select distance, and I'll just press space, go right here on my model and place it perfectly here on the edge. Space again, I'll go on the other side, place it perfectly on the edge, and then I'll go up top. So over there, perfectly on the edge. Right click. Okay, what are the distances that I have? So I have a 0.99, which is literally a millimeter away from the meter. And then I have 1.97, which is a bit shorter than what I would have with this. But it's definitely okay. So I'm going to actually use that model, that panel, as it is. So I don't need this anymore. I'll select my panel. And so now the only thing I have to do is basically place it on my roof. I'll place that one vertically as it is right over there between the two windows. So what I'll do is first I'll try to put it pretty much in front of it, and then I'll use this double axis to move it around and place it pretty much in the good position. And obviously I'll rotate it for it to have the good rotation, place it, something like that looks pretty good. I might have to rotate it just a bit like this. So I have it perfectly placed, move it around, and so now I have my first panel that is placed. And then for the rest, what I'll do is make that one horizontal, so I can have like 4 horizontal panels right here, and then we'll try to go as far here to the left as possible, so I'll have like an L shape here. That's what I'll do, and so we'll see basically how many I can place when I'm done with this. So I have now used the same technique to place all of the other panels. As you can see, I was able to place like 4 panels wide all the way to the edge of the roof, and then it's almost on the window here, so it's like perfectly placed. So I have like 4 high here and only 2 for these ones, and then 4 wide. So that makes 11 panels right here, counting this one. And I made sure to have that 1.5 centimeter distance right here between each panel. So to do that, what I did is basically go into settings, and instead of being meters, I go into millimeters, and I just go distance, and I'll just click here, and I have my 15 millimeters distance, which is 1.5 centimeters. So I don't need that anymore. Confirm, hide this. So now these panels are placed. I will now do the same thing for this roof and see how many I can fit. I'll put them vertically, so like one here, that should take pretty much all the height of the roof. And then I'll do like all of the width that I can. Let's place them all and take a look at what it's like. Right, so I was able to place all of the south panels like this. So 13 panels on that side, 11 is on that side. That makes 24 panels overall. Now that we're done with this, what I said was that we were going to be going over the electrical panels. So basically, I'll just go into the garage. Right, so to have this place cleaner, what I did is place down a clipping box, and I've hidden the hole that was left by the trash that was here. So basically, here I have a hole that's shaped like the trash, and I just placed some primary models to hide this so that I have a clean angle to put everything that I need. And talking about everything that I need, here at the top, I've listed every single object that I need to place here. Let's start with the bigger one. So we'll just go right here. It's this one. So this item, which is basically the whole battery package. I can see the size is 150 in depth, 670 in width, and then it's 1.32 meters high. So I'll just go back here and create a model that is exactly these values. I'll also have this item right here, a backup box. And the dimensions I have right here, 350 by 400 by 130. I also have to place this, so dimensions 231 by 238 by 118. I'll have to place this, which if I go down, here are the dimensions, 365 by 365 by 158. And then finally, the last thing I'll have to place is this, so that's 288 by 426 by 148. So I'll just go back here and then create all of these and try to place them all in that corner without them being too close to each other. Right, okay, so here I have all of my little items. So right here, for example, I have my battery, which is right there. You can see, like we said, it was 1.32 meters high, so there it is. Width was 760 centimeters, so 0.67 meters. And then the length was 0.15 meters. I have it placed right here by the entrance of the garage. Then on top of it, if I select this, you'll see that I have my protection box, which is this one. Right by it, we have this item, which is that one, okay, the inverter. Then if we select this one, that's the other box, so that's this one right here. And then finally, I have my backup box, which is this, so that's the item that we saw right here. So here I have all of my items that are placed, and they're all accessible, like they're not blocked by each other. I can interact with all of them while standing where I pretty much would be here, so that's just perfect. Now the last thing we'll have to do when it comes to solar panels is actually measuring the cables that we're going to need. So that means going from here to the west panels, which are basically just above the garage where I put down my electric panels, and then the other cable, which will be from the electric panel to the south panels. And so we'll have to verify what length we need to actually be able to connect every single panel. So right now you can see I have measurements that just give out to me the overall distances. We'll use that to buy the support for the panels, because obviously these don't just stick on the roof. You'll have to put 2 racks per line of panel to have them basically hold on the roof. You attach the rack on the roof, and then you attach the panels on the racks so that they can actually hold. So basically you'll have 2 racks for the upper line here, and then 2 racks for the line that is just below, and then 2 racks for these two, and then 2 racks for these ones. And so these measurements give me the length of the racks that I need to buy. So 8 meters, and then here it's like 2 meters, 2 meters, and then 1 meter here, and on that one I'll have to get 2 7-meter racks and 2 6-meter racks. That's basically it. Now, enough about these measures. Let's head over and talk about the cables. So basically, I'll have to leave from here and go all the way up top to the roof. Now, I've already made that before, so I'll just enable them and show you exactly what it looks like. So if we're going to electric, measuring cables, and we'll start with the west cable. So I'll hide the rest for now, and we'll start with this. So I've taken a cable that started all the way from the bottom, so I have a little bit of margin to do some stuff here and have the cable go through each of the boxes that it has to go through, and then I'll have it go to the top. Let's select it so that we can actually see it through the point cloud, and that's exactly where it's going to go out of the roof. So I have the distance between each leg of the cable, and then right here I'll have the total distance of the cable. So here I have 29.14 meters to be able to connect all of these panels. So basically just it's there, it goes up here, goes all the way around these panels so I can connect them all, then it goes down there to be able to connect this one, and then it goes back up to all the way out here so I can connect that one as well. And so here with that cable distance, I can plug every single panel. So I'll take 3 meters and it will be enough to connect all of the west panels. Now if we do the same thing with the south panels, there we go, enable it. I have the same beginning, so that means that under the same tile here, I'll have both cables that come out, so it's going to be way easier to just have the 2 of those come out in the same place, and then have the south cable go over the top of the house, and then back down, and then back up here to connect all of these panels. So it just goes around just like we did before with these ones. You might ask, why am I not getting through the house and then out this way? Well, the answer is really simple. I already have a hole made here to go over the top, like to go on the roof. So it's easier to just go over the top and then in here. And also, if I have to, for whatever reason, change the cable one day, it's going to be way easier to just go over the roof rather than just tore the whole house down to be able to change that cable. So here's the south cable, 37.82 meters. Let's take a 38 or 39 or even 40 meter cable to make sure that we have enough distance. Now we have both sides connected to the electrical panel, but we don't have the electrical panel connected to the rest of the house and the overall electric system. So what we'll do, I'll go back to panels, is add the 230 volt board cable. That one goes from here, but instead of going out of the roof, which wouldn't make sense, I'm gonna have it go over the inside of the house and all the way out here, and it will go connect itself to the board that is actually out there on the other side. So like it will go right here, and here is the board, and so that's where it will connect. So I'll need a 17 meter cable to be able to connect the electrical panel for the solar panel system that is in the garage to the regular electric panel that is here in this side of the house. So now I have my 3 cables and everything is connected together. The panels are connected to the panel electric system, and then the panel is actually connected to the house. So now my panels can actually power my house. And so you see, doing it with the viewer like that, being able to place down the panels, seeing like how can I place them so that I can optimize everything, being able to measure the cables that I need and all of that, the racks and everything, before actually getting up on that roof and placing the panels and trying to see if it's going to fit. This is just going to be so nice to have this and have all of the information that I need before actually getting on the roof. Okay, and it will optimize my time up there and the time to put everything in place, basically. All right, let's head off to the next project. All right, we're now going to do the third project, which is installing a hot tub exactly here in this area. The first thing we will do is here I've already created the folder, and inside of that folder, I'll create 3 different folders because I know from now that I'll have 3 different steps. The first one, I'll add a folder, I'll call it step 1. Second one will obviously be called step 2. And then, guess what? Step 3. Now I'll take all of these and put them into hot tub, and now we can start working. So in the step 1, what I'll do is just create a simple primary shape, primary cube, as we've done now a lot of times, and just place it right here where I want my hot tub to be placed, basically. On the second step, I will import a point cloud that represents where the status of the construction currently is, which is I already have the foundation of the thing. And then the third step, I will actually use models only to visualize what it will look like when it will be done. Okay, so these are the 3 steps I will actually go through. Step 1, as I said, create the model. So once again, add an object plus primary model box. Okay, there we go, perfect. Scale, I know the scale, it's 2.13 wide and then 2.13 long, that's just the size of it. And then the height is 1.17, there we go. Now what we'll do is place it according to that terrace like right here. So the first thing we'll do is actually put it up to height, just like that, yeah. And then I'll place it, thanks to this, in the correct spot. So I believe it's around there. We'll move it with the step 2 anyway afterwards. But basically, that's pretty much what I'm going to have. All right, now let's select a better color for this hot tub. It's blue, let's put it in blue. So now I have my hot tub in blue. Great, that was step 1, really easy. I'm just gonna select that, rename into hot tub, and put it into step 1. So now if I want to hide or display step 1, I'll just have to do this. Right, okay. Step 2, as I said, add an object. And I do have my point cloud somewhere. I'll have to find it. Model decoracy, that's the one. Just like for the first one that we did, it is perfectly placed. So just don't move it. I'll import it. And there we go. And we'll do the exact same thing that we did for the pillar that is out there, which is we'll make a clipping box around the zone that we don't want to see from the old point cloud. Here we have obviously the grass that is merging with the foundation. So what I'll do is just go clipping box, clipping out, work with all of this. There we go. We can go pretty wide because, you know, the point cloud with the model did actually go pretty wide. And then we'll make sure that that doesn't apply on the jacuzzi. There we go. I'll actually make it like that so that doesn't bother me when I actually create my next project, which will be right here, the garage. So I'll stay with this like that and actually make it a little higher. There we go. Okay, that seems about good. Yeah, that's fine. Escape. Oh yeah, I'll actually lock it, hide the frame, put it into step 2, check C, put it into step 2, and now I have my box. In the meantime, I'll also disable all of the rest so that I'm sure that it doesn't apply on anything else, because in the future that might pose problems. So I'll just deselect everything except house here. And then what I'll do is go back into hot tub, I'll enable it, and now I'll place it according to what I currently have to make sure that it fits perfectly. Yeah, that seems about right. What I can do is go into orthographic mode so I can actually see everything all at once and know if I'm too far on one side or another, and that will allow me to place it more precisely. Disable it, leave it where it is. Oh, it's a bit too high again, so I'll get it back down. We'll bring it back here, bring it back down, and bring it back out there. Unselect it. There it is. Good. So now we have our step 1 and we have our step 2 together. Finally, let's do what we talked about before, which is step 3. First, I'll create a big box that will represent the whole terrace. Okay, so I'll place the terrace first. Right here, add an object, primary model, a box to change, and then we'll go into S mode to actually have the correct size first. We'll place it around like that, at the good height if possible. There we go, and make sure that it's pretty well placed. So something like that looks cool, but I do have one problem, which is, first of all, the height is not good enough. Doesn't matter if it's too high because it will be under the ground anyway, so we won't see it. Let's rotate it so we can align it with the border right here. I'll actually bring it down and make sure that it's perfectly aligned with this, which it is not right now. Closer, closer, there it is. Yes, that's good. Okay, I like that. I like that very much. And now we'll bring it back up. There we go. Okay, we now have our box that is perfectly placed. We'll leave it in orange right now. You know how it works. I like bright colors to work with, and then we'll change the color at the end. Because what I actually want to do right now is create an actual wooden floor, and so what I will do is go back into add an object, let's go into sketch fab, and then what I will look for is wooden floor, and we'll see if we can find something that is appealing. Actually, that one looked pretty good. Okay, let's select that one. Okay, so it's going to be a bit large, so what I will do is make it a bit smaller. Okay, so maybe 0.5 in scale, and even then it's still going to be a bit big. 0.3. We'll rescale it anyway afterwards, but I just don't want it to be too big right now. And what we'll do is pick a position so we can make it spawn right here. Import, and so what I'll do now is S and change the size once again. Bit bigger, bit more, okay. Translate it, move it around, and so now we'll place it on top of this. My goal is not for it to perfectly match. I'll use a clipping box to then cut it around if I need to. Obviously, the first step is going to be aligning it with the model, like with this, with the end right here. So the first thing I will do is actually put it like that and move it as close to the edge as I can. So it will be way easier for me to align it just like this. Like you can see the difference between here and there is pretty much the same, and so now I can get it a bit back up, actually move closer and put it on top of this. And if I want to be a bit more precise, what I can do is position, go here and say like 28 maybe. That is perfectly aligned on the top. Don't worry about this, it will change anyway because I'll put a model here instead of that jacuzzi, like of the step 1 jacuzzi. I'm just leaving that for now. You know what, actually I'll get it and put it a bit higher so that it doesn't flicker. Okay, there we go. That's cool. So now I have it aligned here at the front, but I don't have it aligned here on the side. So what I'll do is take it, move it just a wee bit here so that it's aligned on that side. I don't care that it's not aligned here behind because it's actually terrace on terrace, so it doesn't really matter. What I will have to do, however, is create a clipping box to hide it over here. Instead of creating a new clipping box and having to go through all of these again, what I will do is actually just duplicate that one. So I'll just take it, action, duplicate it, and instead of it applying to the house, I'll actually make it so that it applies on the wooden floor. And now I unlock it, show the frame, select it. I'll put it into step 3. So will I put these two things. Don't show these. Show step 3. Select the clipping and just move it out there until it's only on that section. Doesn't have to be that wide, by the way. There we go. And so now all the way until that point. There we go. And we'll move it laterally until it hides everything. It's not wide enough. Doesn't matter. I just take that, make it wider, place it there, lock it, hide the frame, escape, and there we go. We have now our terrace with the hot tub, with the structure underneath, and that's when we'll actually change the color. Last time, if you remember, we've been looking on the internet to find a wooden color for the pillar. But what we can actually do is I have an extension right here that is called Colorzilla, and this will allow me to pick color on the page. So what I'll do is just color pick, and I'll actually go on the terrace and find a color that looks pretty fine, and that is an average of what exists on this. So I'll select this color. It has been automatically copied to my computer, and now if I go into shape, I'll just go here, select that, Control V to pass it, escape, and now my structure has a color. By the way, I'll rename it structure in the meantime. And now the last thing I have to do is actually put down the jacuzzi right here. So add object, project model. I think I do have a jacuzzi. I don't have to go through Sketchfab. I believe so, at least. Yes, jacuzzi, obj, add to the app. Alright, so I've added it to the app. And now what I can do is just make sure that it's pretty much the right size. So for that, I will actually find local view, and it's definitely way too big, so I'll try millimeters, a bit too small. Feet, definitely too big. Inches, better, but still not there. Miles, I can't even see it, it's just too large. And then yards, yeah, definitely not. So I'll actually use inches, which was the closest, and then I'll resize it by using the size tool. So I'll just go here, select the position, import the object, there it is, and now I'll just use the size tool to resize it, translate. I'll move it down so that I can actually see what it's going to be like, and put it right here, and also get it down into the ground so that it's at the right height. Alright, so now we have our jacuzzi. We can remove the step 1 so that we can actually see the jacuzzi. But here you can see we have a problem, because now we see the terrace inside of the jacuzzi, which doesn't make sense. So we'll put one last clipping box just here to hide the terrace inside of the jacuzzi. So that does mean going back here into what we already have. We already have this one that hides this. So we won't even have to change what it's applying on. And we'll just go into actions, duplicate, unlock it, show the frame, select it again. And here we will place it as we want, which is basically right there, all the way up until here, all the way up until there, and we'll also hide all the way until here. So now we don't have that anymore, but you can see there's one more problem, because now we have the structure that's also inside. So what we'll have to do is go there and also apply the clipping box on the structure. And now if we place it correctly, we will have our jacuzzi perfectly integrated into the terrace. So there you go. That's basically how this all works. We have now finished our third project, and we'll head off to the final one, the garage. So I'll just leave the hot tub displayed, because as it's very close to the garage, I want to make sure that these two projects can work with each other. So obviously I've already made the whole garage, but I'm going to show you step by step how I made it and how you can reproduce something like this, or how you can use the same techniques for your own project. The very first thing was just cleaning the whole area. So I want the whole underground garage to be right here. So what I did is just clean that whole zone. It's called, in my case, garage zone. So I just hide all of this. Okay, so I have some free space in there. Then what I'll do is just create a simple box. So here, if I go into garage and then structure, I'm just going to create a simple primary model, a box to fill that gap. Here I've called it exterior. So here I have my primary model. It's just a simple box. There's literally nothing inside of it. That's just a box. Now that box is 10 meters long by 3.9 meters wide, and then it's 2.5 meters high. So that's exterior size of the garage. But obviously we'll have some walls, we'll have a thick ground and a thicker ceiling and all, thicker roof and everything. So I will need to have another box, which will be the interior. Now it's really simple to do that. You just take your exterior, press D on your keyboard, or go into actions and duplicate. Then you put it in the exact same place as you have your exterior. So here you just copy the position and pass it into your interior, just like that. And then you just change the scale. So it's like, instead of 3.9, I have 3.7. Instead of 10 meters, I have 9.8. And instead of 2.5, I have 2.4. So I've just tweaked the numbers just a little bit. And if I enable the interior, you will see that I now have a second box that is the interior. Then what I did was create the entrance. So now that we have our two boxes, exterior, interior, we basically have the overall shape for our garage. But now we'll actually need to be able to get inside of it. So what I did is create another clipping box called garage door, and that would cut open the front of the garage, okay? But now you can see, obviously we're going to be seeing some gaps here, down there, here on the right and everything, because the gap between the exterior and the interior is not filled. Okay, these are just two simple boxes, but the gap that we have between those two is not filled. So what I'll do is create a simple structure that's going to fill those gaps. So for example, if I want to fill the gap that is at the bottom, I'll just create a simple box that has the same color as this at the bottom. So here I called it bottom front. If I enable it, I have just another box that is right here and perfectly aligned. Okay, if we take a look at it, if I press Control to select it, you can see it's like perfectly aligned with the rest. So it's just a box that is going to visually close the gap. That's it. It's as simple as this. And then I'll do the same thing for the top. So it's like top front, now it's locked. Then I do the same thing for the right and the left. So it's like right front and then left front. Now I have a whole garage door filled in with the gaps, and so it actually looks like a garage. Let's just make a test. So now the way it's going to work is I have my garage right here, but that's going to be able to move. So let me just select the whole thing movable, move the folder, and try to move it down. Okay, so that's where it's going to go, and oh, there's a problem. As you can see, right here, I have my clipping box from the garage door that is actually cutting the roof open. Because this little pillar that I have right here, the vertical one, is not going far enough inside. Now I could just decide to have this being wider, but then it wouldn't fit with what I have right here with this. So now what do? Well, it's very simple. I'm just going to duplicate that one and then pass it right here on the left, and I'll make it less high so that it actually fits between here, like all of this space, without being this high and just being a little less thick. Okay, so I just want to fill in that gap. So that's what I did, and it's right here. If I go into, once again, structure, very top front I called it. There we go. And so now I have filled that gap, as you can see from the inside. I have one that is right here. If I go all the way out there, you'll see that I have my front one, which is right there, and then I have the inner one, which is right here, that fills the gap between here at the top and here at the bottom and on the inside. And so now I have a fully functional garage that can go up and down without having any visual gaps when I move it around. Movable, enable move folder, and so now I can get it all the way down so I can actually drive on it, or I can get it all the way up so I can drive into it. Fairly easy until now, isn't it? Alright, so that was just creating the garage. Then what we'll do is actually put some things on the top so it looks a little better. So here I've done two things. So the first thing is I've added some grass over there. So that's just a model that I found on Sketchfab, and it's just a simple like rounded patch of grass. And then the only thing you have to do is use a clipping box to clip the grass. There we go. And so now it fits perfectly with the model. I've made it so that the grass actually stops exactly where the terrace is going for the hot tub, so that if I decide to have the garage just halfway up, for example, if I move folder, if my garage is only halfway up like this, I can go from the terrace to the top of the garage, and it just makes a whole big terrace. And that's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. But now I do need to fill also this gap with something, and so I've decided to go with some gravel. Couldn't find any gravel that would suit me perfectly on Sketchfab, so I just duplicated a bit of point cloud out here and then put it back here on the top. So it's like I've just exported the ground path like this and put it back here. And then I used a few clipping boxes, this time not to cut the inside, but to cut outside, just to show you that it works both ways. Okay, so that patch of grass, I have one clipping box that is only clipping inside, and for this one I'm gonna have the other way around. I have clipping boxes that are cutting outside. So it's like gravel front, and then it hides what's in front. I have gravel right outer, and that's going to hide this. I have the left outer, which is going to hide this. And I have the gravel back, which is going to enable me, like this, to make the differentiation between the gravel and then the grass. So now I have my garage with grass on the top, gravel, everything. And so if I get it all the way down now, if I go back to movable, move the folder, if I put it all the way down and then unselect it, it actually looks like it's just a simple driveway, but it's actually a hidden garage. And then to finalize the project, what we'll do is actually do some more simulation. So I'll just get it back up, movable, move the folder, get it back up, just like this. There we go. And now we'll actually put some things inside of the garage. So 2 cars, we'll put some bikes, we'll put some shelves on the wall and everything, so that we actually see what it looks like with everything inside. So for that, again, I've prepared everything. There's no real need to show you exactly how to place objects. I think we've done that quite a few times enough. But basically, if I enable my elements, there we go. I have now some boxes, bikes, some shelves out there, and then I can also enable the cars that I've put in. So I've put an OD and a Jeep, just like that. And so now I have my garage that is fully simulated with objects, with cars, and I can move all of that around. Movable, move the project, and I can move everything all together with this. So now I have everything on the ground, and if I go back to movable, select it again, I can put everything again on the top. And if I just want to move the cars, let's say I just want to see like what the cars are going to be like on the outside, I just select those 2 cars, move them out. So now my cars are outside of the garage, unselect them. And so now if I just want to move the garage without the cars, what I can do is select garage, because the cars are not in there, and say enable move folder once again, and then I'm now able to move the garage without having the cars moving. So again, using those folders is really important. It will take some time for you to get acquainted with exactly how you should use those folders, but once you get the start of exactly what you can do with those folders, and if you manage them correctly, the possibilities are limitless. So right here you've seen like I have my elements, I have my structure in the garage, so I can move only the garage without the cars. Or if I select movable, I can move everything. It's like, it's so cool. Okay, so now I have my cars that are outside, I have this, but that also means that I could technically have a car parked up here on the top, and so that would mean that in that space, I could have 3 cars where I would normally only have 2. So to do that, it's fairly simple. I'm just gonna get the garage back up. I'll take the 2 cars and put them back in the garage. Okay, I'll make sure that they didn't hit the wall out there. Okay, that's fine. They didn't hit the wall. So now I can unselect them, get out of the garage, and I'll move it back down. So movable, move the folder. There we go. Garage is back in the ground. Now what I can do is, I don't know if you've seen, but when I went to cars, I had a 3rd car. And if I show this one, it's going to be on top of the garage. Here it's a little bit in the ground, so I'll just put it a little back up. There we go. And so now it's perfectly on top of the garage. So now I have a 3rd car that is in that space. And if I go back into movable and move it all together, I'll have my car that's on top that's going to be moving with the garage, and the cars that are inside, and everything is moving together. And just like that, in a few minutes, I was able to simulate my whole garage. I can make sure that my cars are actually going to fit in what I've prepared, because these are real size cars. You can have the actual distances of your garage. So we know it's 9.8 meters long. You know the width, so you know exactly what you're going to be able to fit in there, and you'll be able to make your measurements to make your building planning. Whether you are going to make the project yourself, or if you would just want to communicate all of these information that you already have thanks to this to the company that is actually going to make the project. Being able to create things like these, so if we talk about the garage, about the awning that's out there that we did at the beginning, or about the solar panel system, being able to prepare all of this digitally before actually doing it will allow you to gain first some precious time and also some money, because you will greatly reduce that margin of error that can actually happen when you're on the roof, when you're actually making the terrace, or when you're digging the hole for the garage. All of this can be removed completely thanks to ATIS.cloud, because you can prepare your projects before actually making them.